'Cause I gave her my phone to film, like, Route 66 signs downtown Chicago. Like, literally, just all you had to do was hold the phone straight, and we looked at it, and she got the sidewalk. I'm like, "Not even the sign." I'm like, "My dude, you had 1 job. Like, you were failing at your 1 job."
What happens when you trade the hunt for the best poutine in Quebec City for sticking a GoPro into the freezing Churchill River with hundreds of wild beluga whales? You get a travel writer whose portfolio shifts seamlessly from chic urban food shops to extreme Canadian wilderness and classic road trips.
You're listening to the Rudderless Travel Podcast, a podcast about purposeful travel, sharing inspirational stories, and unlocking a destination's secrets.
Hey, my name is Christopher Rudder, an award-winning travel content creator and expert with Rudderless Media. So, if you've been following along after the heart-wrenching story of the Empress of Ireland in the last episode, we left Rimouski and headed to the Gaspésie region. We featured a stop at Chute à Philomene, a 33-meter-high waterfall where I chatted with the site's manager, who also happens to be the mayor of Saint-Alexandre-de-Lacs, Nelson Pilote. We then headed to Carleton to stay at Parc Régional de Mont-Saint-Joseph, a site with a 555-meter elevation that offered breathtaking views of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. If you're interested in the 8-day Quebec Maritime road trip, I have linked to the article, video, and Substack in the show notes. You must do this road trip at least once. Anyways, from here, we headed to Percy, a drive along the highway with the Gulf on your left, right before Percy Rock suddenly makes its appearance. It is forever etched in my memory. The adventure there centered around the Percy Global UNESCO Geopark, where the tectonic multimedia show brought 500 million years of Earth history to life, followed by a visit to the suspended glass platform, which sits 200 meters high off the cliffside. Our time in Percy concluded with dinner at La Maison du Pêcheur, a waterfront restaurant known for specializing in fresh seafood and offering a panoramic view of the iconic Percy Rock. Finally, we left Percy to check out the nearby city of Gaspé. It was at the tail end of this wild road trip right here in Gaspé that I actually first met Pamela MacNaughtan over at Paquebot Cafe. As a fellow TMAC members, we of course talk shop, and I knew right away that I needed to have her on the show. As an Ontarian, and those who know, I'm having this secret love affair with Quebec. So I wanted to look at the province through the eyes of someone who knows its streets, its shores, and its flavors better than almost anyone else. So Pamela MacNaughtan is a creative force behind Urban Guide Quebec, and she has what I feel is a fascinating dual identity. She is the ultimate fast-paced urban guide, tracking down the best poutine and boutique hotels, but she's also a wild Canadian adventurer who thrives in extreme nature and deeply emotional, slow-paced travel. How are you, Pamela?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Pamela's writing isn't just about transactional itineraries. It's about vulnerability. During her travels in the Bas-Saint-Laurent region, she stayed at Refuge Vallée de Mer Chalet, near Lebec. Now, these aren't your typical cabins. They are historical chalets rescued from across Quebec, literally taken apart, labeled joint by joint, transported to the coast, and meticulously rebuilt. Instead of just a standard hotel critique, she wrote something incredibly profound about their cozy, charming, and unique ambiance. You wrote a piece where you said that a piece of you will always reside in the chalet at Refuge Vallée de Mer. So what is the fundamental difference in your experience between a unique stay that you enjoy and one that transcends simple lodging to become a spiritual home?
It's the history, right? It's the history. You could almost imagine like you're in someone's home or in someone's cabin, right? You can imagine, like a grandmother in the kitchen cooking for you. You've got a wood stove, so you're putting your fire in the wood stove. There's balconies. Each of their chalets have a balcony that overlook Rose Bay out back kind of thing. So you can go sit out there with your coffee in the morning or at night, or it's just very relaxing, and they have it spread out enough that it feels secluded most of the time, and it's just uh, it started an addiction, almost a
Mm.
chalet addiction, if you would, right?
Mm.
I think they broke my chalet cherry in Quebec, and then since then, every winter, myself and a friend will be like, "Oh, time to chalet!" Like, it's just, uh, do you never forget your first? Can I say that?
Yes, you can. This
I'm a
is
little
this is
unhinged.
yeah, which is why I think you're awesome. But which is probably why we get along well. But yeah, you completely say whatever you want. It's not a family show. I mean, it could be, but whatever. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
promote it as a family show. So
No,
you be you. That deep, authentic connection Pamela seeks in her accommodations is the exact same energy she applies to uncovering Quebec's culinary history. And trust me, nothing tells the story of Quebec quite like the maple syrup culture and the traditional Cabane à Sucre, or simply the sugar shacks. All right, let's move on to sugar. Okay, so
yeah, sorry.
one of your guides meticulously details the difference between large industrial sucre and the smaller family-run Cabane au Sucre. Sucre. So, for someone visiting Quebec, how do they ensure that they are getting the true family recipe, cultural experience, and how does that demand change when they seek out specialized modern versions like vegetarian or high-end gourmet?
Well, it's with the sugar shacks in Quebec anyways, majority of them are gonna just be small family-run businesses. So it's really quite easy to find. You're gonna have ones that are more touristy. Right? So those ones will be open all year round so that people who are traveling from Japan or Australia or the US or wherever they're traveling from can have that sugar shack experience outside of the sugaring off season, right? Because sugaring off here is, I think it's like mid to end February kind of thing into like mid March, kind of, yeah, about that. Depends on the weather. Do you know what I mean? When it starts to warm up a little bit and the sap starts to run in that. But, that would be your big difference. So if you're coming outside of that season, then you can still do sugar shacks, but it's going to be ones that are aimed specifically for tourism. You'll still have, well, no, you don't really have locals going to those. But if you're here during the sugaring off season, then you're gonna be experiencing that cultural moment with a variety of tourists as well as locals, because it's a big fun thing that everyone loves to do. You can go out to the sugar shacks and do that whole thing with the maple taffy, and sometimes there will be like tractor rides or sleigh rides or whatever that you can go on as well. But in places like Quebec City and Montreal, they will also have urban sugar shack pop-ups. So
Mm.
some neighborhoods will have like a sugar shack event that you can go to outside one evening on a weekend or
Oh.
whatever and experience it that way. Places like Vie Quebec, Old Quebec, you'll have places that'll have maple taffy that you can pull maple taffy, which is a part of the tradition of sugar shacks. So
Yeah, I think I read a stat somewhere that Quebec is responsible for like 90 something percent of all maple syrup production, like not just
yeah,
locally, but like around the world, I believe. Some
they
number
have
like
their
that.
own federation. They have their own warehouses. I think there's 4 different locations for the warehouses, but yeah, I mean, they have, like, a lot of things in Quebec. It's like a cooperative or a federation that they've got, and one of the great things about that is that the, producers that are a part of that can they'll send their syrup, their extra syrup over there, and it's being stored in safe environments and it keeps for quite a long time. But the nice thing about that is that it helps to regulate the price kind of thing. So you're not going to have tons of spike in prices between, producers, but it's also good for the lean years. So if you have a lean maple syrup crop or year, whatever you want to call it, you've got the reserve
Hmm.
kind of thing. And that's why the big maple syrup heist was such a big deal, right? Because those guys stole from the reserve and, millions of dollars worth of maple syrup like went out the door.
So maple syrup, by the way, is before we move on to poutine,
Hmm.
maple syrup is my absolute favorite food. I don't care what anyone says. I consider it a food group for me. And I will pour maple syrup on a brick and I will eat a brick if there's maple syrup on it. That's how much I love that
Yeah.
stuff. It's just
Well, one
putting
of
it
the
out
big
there.
for sugar shacks is you put maple syrup on everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just people are like, "Really?" I said, "Yes, put it on your tortilla,
Mm.
you drizzle it into your pea soup, you put it on your eggs." I'm like, "Put it on everything." You don't have to put a ton of it on, but you need to at least drizzle maple syrup on at least everything if you're in a sugar shack, like, come on.
Yeah. I don't have to put a ton of it on. Oops. Oh,
Well, it just
that,
depends on the person.
that's a mistake.
Yeah.
What makes Pamela such a credible voice is her absolute narrative honesty. She doesn't just do broad strokes. She gets highly specific, whether she's hunting down the definitive best poutine in Quebec City or finding safe havens for people with severe dietary restrictions. So you dedicated specific articles to finding the best poutine and advocating for a delicious gluten-free fried chicken at Poulet Frit Wang. Do these highly specific quests, like seeking the best or a classic or catering to a crucial niche, represent the evolving standard for actionable, credible food travel writing?
I think part of it is people come for specific foods,
Mm.
right? They come for the poutine, they haven't had it. By the way, it's poutine, it's not Putin, okay? Putin is a hooker, so stop. Stop. I saw I saw someone put that on Threads, and they're like, "I didn't like the Putin," and I was like, "You didn't like the hookers?" Yeah, me neither. Um, like, they come to Quebec looking for
I'm
specific
sorry
food.
if this wasn't an X-rated show, it is now.
Sorry.
I'm just joking. That's
I
hilarious.
haven't sworn in Quebecois yet, so that's good.
But I actually didn't even
Um,
know that, so that's actually very
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
it's just a slight variation in the way that you pronounce it, but it's it's a very different word. But, people come specifically sometimes to try poutine, so it makes sense for me to have stuff like where to find the best ones. Not everyone has a great poutine, but, and it depends, right? If you're gonna go to and some people are not gonna like me for this. I would say if you want a late night poutine, if you've been to the bar, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you need to crush some poutine, then yeah, Chez Ashton is great. Snack Bar St. John is great. There's specific poutineries that you're gonna go to late, late, late at night that you may not go to during the day, kinda thing. It's like French onion soup, it's the same thing. I have an article on where to find the best French onion soup because it's people come here looking for that. In terms of, like, poulet frites wong with their gluten-free fried chicken, and that is actually because I have friends and family members who are celiac. I'm a crusty person, and I don't like it when people say that they want gluten-free, but they're not affected by it. That annoys me. But I specifically put it in there with those people in mind because I've traveled with people with celiac, and I know how frustrating it is for them to find safe environments to eat, kinda thing. So, having those people in my life have made me change and be a little bit more responsible. So, when I'm at a restaurant, I will ask them, "Oh, do you have gluten-free foods?" kind of thing. And I'll ask the other questions. Oh, do you have a dedicated fryer, or is it a dedicated kitchen? Like how easy is it for cross contact? And I'm constantly trying to ask for those things because I'm keeping those people in the back of my mind. Um, so that particular piece is just something that's evolved slowly over time because I've had experience with other people, and trying to figure out how to find a restaurant for everybody to eat safely can sometimes be quite a challenge.
All
The
right.
vegans, though, I don't care about them.
Neither do
Don't
I.
put that in there. It's like someone's like, "I'm a vegan," and I'm like, "Oh,
What?
like I moved to Quebec City and I became a vegan." I'm like, "Well, what did we do to you? Why?" One of the things that I love about Quebec's food culture, I will say though, is that there is this very strong marriage to um, locally grown foods, right?
Yeah.
To producers and stuff like that, to farms, to animal husbandry, to alcohol. Like the whole gambit can be found through local producers here.
Mm.
And so, it's not uncommon for you to find dishes on menus that are probably pretty vegan naturally, kind of thing, because they are working a lot with plant-based foods and stuff. But yeah, being a vegan in Quebec City is going to be a challenge for you.
If you want to dive deeper into this story, visit us over at rudderlesstravel.com/podcast.
Pamela has a habit of falling in love with places that might not be on everyone's radar, showcasing Northern Quebec's unique mix of cultural sophistication and environmental redemption. We moved our conversation towards the Abitibi-Témiscamingue region to talk about the town with a resilient spirit. So let's go into Ron Noranda's story of recovery, particularly around Lake Osisco's 20th century mining impact is a powerful example of civic transformation. So how intentional are you about featuring destinations that are actively engaged in repairing industrial history or showcasing environmental success stories?
I mean, I think it's important for everyone to. I don't go out necessarily seeking them sometimes. It's something that will come up as I'm doing my research or come up as I'm there talking to people. And it's, in Rouen, Noranda, it was a common topic of conversation just because of the lowering birth rates and all these other kind of things. And but I think I've always been, and not just in travel writing, but I've always been attracted to, or I felt a certain pull towards like the black sheep type situations or places. So, I'm not necessarily pulled to the places that everyone is raving about, and it may take me a little bit longer to actually get to those places. I'm generally more interested in places that nobody's really talking about or people aren't really doing or seeing. Those have always been really enticing to me. I mean, I went to the Mustang Ranch in Reno because I could. Okay. I went, it was fascinating. They gave me a tour. I met some of the girls. I saw the rooms. They explained how they process the men. It was fascinating to me to go there and do that. So it's sort of like, like with Rouen Noranda, when we were talking about all the industrial stuff, because mining is still a big piece there.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that needs to be acknowledged and shared. There's with that particular destination, there is a lot of negative feedback that can come from people that are just affected negatively, that have been negatively affected through it. But it's important to see the transformation. It's the same with Sudbury, right? My aunt lived in Copper Cliff. We used to go to Sudbury every summer. It's the same kind of thing, that same sort of environmental impact and those issues. And Sudbury, Ontario is just making great strides to kind of correct that damage that they've done over the years. And they're doing a great job. They still probably have maybe 5 more years worth of like real work to kind of had that transformation almost fully realized, but they're making great strides in doing that. Another example is Lac-Mégantic. I went to Lac-Mégantic, I think it's maybe 2 years ago now. Um, but, those of us from our generation will know or remember from that huge train accident that happened because the engineer didn't apply all the brakes on the train kind of thing, and it rolled down, and it had that massive explosion in the middle of town in the middle of the night. So that's another one where it was a huge, huge impact to that area. But now it's very different. It's 10 years on or a bit more than that, I think. And they're coming into their own again and they're reclaiming themselves. How do I want to say it? Separate from the accident.
Uh, yeah, to not be known for just that as their primary
Yeah,
thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
You should be talking about them being a dark sky reserve,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Not about the tragedy that happened all those years ago.
yeah. I totally hear you. And I'm actually very similar. I tend to try to gravitate towards like second cities and more, not the main places. Before we got into one of her most personal journeys, we talked a bit about the freedom of the open road and why getting behind the wheel is sometimes the only way to truly see a destination. But road trips aren't always just about the scenery. Sometimes they're about who's sitting in the passenger seat. So speaking of road trips, I followed your journey closely since we met and recently saw like all your heartbreaking posts about caring for your mom and her passing. So reading your High Canada piece about that epic 27-day road trip you took, it really actually hit me hard because I just met you and got to know you. So especially when you wrote about how much you wish you had done a trip like this with your dad before he passed, and then you bravely admitted to unconsciously putting your mom in this protective glass box, but out on the road, that box shattered. And then you got to see her as a whole person, whether you were laughing as she figured out how to climb into a towering hotel bed in Oklahoma, or watching her light up remembering dancing until 3 a.m. at Waterton Lakes in the 1960s. So when you look back at those 27 days and the moments you captured, like the beautiful day you spent treating her and her cousin Connie to a foodie adventure, what did it mean to finally share that unrestricted living in the moment presence with her? And how does that specific journey shape the way you celebrate her memory today?
It's when I planned that trip, I planned a very different trip. Kind of thing. I planned it the way I always do with the thought of work in mind. I had my laptop, I had my camera, I had my gear, and I thought, I'm just going to go do this epic road trip with my mom. And she's kind of like a tag along, which sounds horrible to say, but honestly, that's really what it is. If you're not the travel writer, you're the tag along, right? And the tag along has duties, like hold this camera while I drive and make it straight. Like they're pretty simple tasks, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have jobs. And so I was thinking along, this kind of thought process. And the first night we were there, we were staying in Joliet, just outside of Chicago. And we're in the hotel room and just kind of settling in for the evening. And she had put on the TV, and I was at the desk, and I opened my laptop. And we had a good day. We had stopped in Frankenmuth on our way over to Illinois. Stuff I got her to say something about Willie's sausages. It's my mom was very religious, so it was always great when I could do innuendo stuff and trick her into it. Um, and so anyway, so we had a good
You're
day,
awful.
and I am awful. There's more to come on that. And I had opened up my laptop to start taking my notes and stuff from the day and that, and it kind of hit me when I did that, where it kind of felt like I had just raised a wall And so I had just raised a wall. She was over on the other side of the wall, and I was in my little cocoon. And for a split second, I was like, okay, you know what? This is not right. This doesn't feel right. And I closed my laptop and I didn't open it again for the rest of the trip. So it was sort of like that decision where it was that invisible wall that I felt going up as soon as my laptop opened. And I was like, no, like this doesn't, it's wrong. It feels wrong. And that small action actually made such a huge impact on that trip. And it's one of the reasons why I've really struggled to actually write about that trip, because it became something so special, like I have so many video clips and stuff on my phone and on my hard drive now from that trip that I can go back to and look at. But it changed our relationship enormously. I tried to make her be like the person she's supposed to be as a buddy of a travel writer on a trip. And you know what happened? As I gave her my phone to film, like, Route 66 signs downtown Chicago, like, literally, just all you had to do was hold the phone straight, and we looked at it, and she got the sidewalk. I'm like, "Not even the sign." I'm like, "My dude, you had one job. You were failing at your one job." But, it was, like, that first day, I her assignment was to look for the signs. Look for Route 66 signs. And we put the phone away and we navigated all of Illinois on those signs. And it was just like, just look for the sign, and that's as long as we're on a road that has a sign, we know we're on the right route,
Wow.
kind of thing. And Illinois, I'll say, has the most impressive Route 66 memorabilia and signage, and it's the easiest of the states to kind of
Right.
follow that rule. But that was something that we did, and so it just became a challenge, and I couldn't count on her to navigate like I would with, somebody else. She's not gifted that way, she's 79. Um, so I would have to plan the route, and I would start every in the evening, I'd say, "Okay, this is the deal. We can either go route A, or if you want something more scenic, we can do route B, but route B is gonna add 2 to 3 extra hours of driving to our day because 'cause we're not gonna be on the interstate." And every day she'd be like, "Let's do route B," kinda thing. So it's sort of like she was always up for the adventure. She was always up to just to see the things, She's older, so we weren't doing active stuff, but she was always down for the adventure. I mean, I got her soda, like, we had Stanley Cups before Stanley Cups were cool. And I watched her be like a chaotic two-year-old, and I'm like the way she poured her water into her Stanley Cup, I'm like, "Who the hell are you? I've lived with you all this time. You are like chaos. What's wrong with you?" But, it was every day, it was something, So we were laughing every day kinda thing, and it just really transformed everything, and I would have to say up until a few days before she passed, she was still talking about that trip and still saying that was the best trip she had ever been on, kind of thing. And there's just so many stories and memories and stuff like that. So yeah, I hold it quite close because that was a very transformative experience for both of us.
Mm, I feel the confliction because not everything needs to be content. And for those who are watching and listening to this right now, we're actually recording this on Mother's Day. So I feel that this question is actually quite, and just, I mean, just, I think it's the perfect cap
Yeah.
here. But like, yeah, I know what you're saying because uh, every time I go somewhere, I feel this need to just create content all the time. And it's this
Mhm.
constant struggle between having that passion for travel and then also documenting it, which is quite different than actually writing a blog post about it. And so then how do you navigate that? Because at what point am I actually going to a destination and just enjoying it the way that I originally enjoyed it before all this content creation thing started to happen, when I would
Mm.
just go to travel for the love of traveling, right?
Yeah.
So I get that, but do you think that you would ever document anything? Because maybe I'm sure there's someone else in your situation who's probably like, should I be documenting this? Should I just be enjoying the moment? Should I like, where do you turn that on and turn that off? Like, do you know what I mean?
I do. I think I'm glad I documented it. Do you know what I mean? I didn't blog my way through it the way I probably would have it had I treated it 100% like a work trip, which
Fair.
is what it was supposed to be.
Fair.
But I'm so glad that I did document it and that we had that because we had a couple years where we could look back and laugh but like as her life was coming to a close and she was in hospice and that, it was nice to then she talked about that trip more. So it was nice to be able to go back and look at pictures together or, look at some of the videos. I mean, I have a video of her with her cell phone trying to take a picture with her cell phone, but for whatever reason, she would move her entire freaking body, and I'm like, "You just have to move your wrist to the left, like, just a little bit to the left, and what you want is gonna be on the screen," and her entire body would move, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she's leaning way back in the car, and I'm like, "It's on the screen, you don't need to actually lean back to get the shot, it's like, it's in there, I can see it, I'm sitting beside you." So it's so nice to be able to have those things, um, and I think those things are what carry you through later on as well.
Mm.
One thing I wanna and I know it's a privileged thing because not everyone has a great relationship with their parents, um, but one of the things that came out of that trip, aside from me getting to know her as a person and all those other kind of things, because our relationship changed in that trip and because of the things that we shared and experienced in that time, when her cancer got to a point where, um, she couldn't care for herself, she got sepsis, actually, and from the moment of having sepsis and recovering from sepsis, she was no longer able to, stand up on her own and walk her own, and she had to have a walker and stuff, and so that's when the full-time care came into play. And I strongly believe that the only reason I was able to do those 4.5 months with her at home and then in hospice is because of that road trip. So, because of the things that we went through and because of the things we shared in that road trip, when it came down to me caring for her full time, we were able to find the humor. We were able to find humor in things that people would think are gross. Home care is there's a lot of gross things that happen. I'm not gonna lie. You're doing a lot of stuff. But, we would be able to laugh about certain things or make jokes or whatever, whether it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm trying to get her cleaned up or whatever it was. So I'm now a very big champion, I guess, of multi-generational travel, of taking those moments, but also of living each day. And that's for us, that's how, or for me, I shouldn't claim for the rest of my family, but for myself, looking at her and just being like, okay, we've got today. Today is going to be a great day. We've got today. If you're not here tomorrow, you know what? You're not here tomorrow. It's okay because we have today. And so I'm really trying to kind of continue that type of mindset as we're going and as you travel. And I think it's a really important part of travel is like we may not have tomorrow. So like when you're in destination and when you're trying to experience a place or a people or whatever, it's like, you know what, we have today. So let's make the most of what why we're here. Whether you're sitting in the market or, you're at some super busy tourist attraction or whatever. It's like make the most of those moments.
Wow. No, that's
I went
beautiful.
on.
No, 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 no. I doubt that's just beautiful. I couldn't actually. I mean, that says it all, and the power of travel. And I mean, whew, wow, I love that story so much. Okay, so you actually didn't come to the TMAC, like, because you
No,
weren't there. Yeah.
no, no. I was going to, and then it was just with my mom passing at the beginning of March, I just didn't think I would be ready to
Deal with
be at a
all.
conference
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
I didn't wanna start falling apart in the middle of meetings and stuff because it just happens randomly.
yeah. No,
I was like,
I
"It's probably not the best professional."
yeah, I completely hear you because
Yeah.
it's the same thing with me. Like, because my dad passed away not last year but the year before, And I didn't really want to tell anybody because I'm that kind of person who I'm generally happy all the time. And I don't want to be like, you just kind of get around something and you're okay, I'm happy now. And then someone just comes out of nowhere. I'm so sorry about that. And you're like, oh, it just brings me back down again. And I,
Yeah.
I, I don't want to be in that mood all the time. So I completely get it where I just don't want people to be wishing me condolences all the time.
One of the things about losing a parent or someone who's very close to you is that it changes you as a person. And so once they're gone, you are now a different version of yourself, right? Based on whatever history or whatever relationship you had with them when they passed or whatever, you change as a person. And so after my dad died in 2015, he died actually March 16th of 2015. My mom died March 11th of this year. But anyways, so after my dad died, I stopped my blog. So I had a blog called Savoir Faire Abroad. And after he passed, I had stopped writing it because it was no longer, I was no longer that person. I know I lost any kind of connection or whatever I had to that. And so and I regret it now, obviously, but at the time, I just really had no concept of what was going on. And I started Urban Guide Quebec at that time.
That ability to live raw, unprotected, and unfiltered is exactly what makes Pamela's writing so powerful today. I asked her how she maintains that completely authentic voice while bouncing between deep urban food guides and extreme wild adventures.
But in terms of consistent voice and perspective and stuff, I'm probably one of the worst travel writers, travel bloggers out there because I don't spend a lot of time on the back end.
Mm.
I write what I wanna write, and so I go out and experience the things that I feel a pull for, and I just write about it. I'm not researching SEO, not really. I don't think I've opened Google Analytics in over a year kinda thing. Like, I'm not like, everything that a person with a travel website has been taught to do, I don't do. I think it's probably because 'cause I'm lazy. I don't know why. It's just I'm 50, I've got brain fog. I'm just like, I can't be bothered. And so, that's probably not the answer you wanted.
No, 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 no. It actually is.
I'm just out here being feral
Yeah.
and trying to write like I'm not, Like, I'm just raw dogging life,
Yeah.
and writing about it. So
I love that. Yeah. I'm inspired by stuff and I just write about it, what I think, and that's it. And I was the same way. Then I had to learn SEO kind of like and try to apply it. So I completely hear what you're saying. The SEO piece completely ruined how I had to be. And but you know what? The funny thing is with all these algorithms, and this is all on the side, it's going back the other way now, where it's more important for you to be yourself, right?
well, it's the authentic voices, right? It's like
1000%.
Lonely Planet. Yeah, a lot of us don't like the way they've changed their guidebooks because we're used to them being a certain kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's even there going more towards personal voices and those experiences. I did the Quebec chapter of the new Quebec or Montreal and Quebec City guidebook that's out on Tuesday, I think. And that's, you see it in guides as well. Everyone's going towards those personal recommendations.
I think it has a lot to do with 1000%, because I think it has a lot to do with AI now. So I think people are just looking for stuff that's real. So that might actually in turn work in our favor, actually, because people are getting tired of all this fake stuff. So they want someone that's just real. So I think that's going to work in our favor.
That's why I don't lose weight,
Yeah.
Like, keep it real. keep the fatness out there, then I'm not AI.
Whether she is guiding us through the historic neighborhoods of Quebec City, getting vulnerable in the Chalet in Lebec, or braving the polar north, Pamela MacNaughtan proves that the best travel writing isn't just about what to do. It's about why it matters. A massive thank you to Pamela for sharing her philosophy with us. You can read her incredible work over at urbanguidequebec.com. But I'll leave all the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow adventurer. Check out all the show notes and photos and other episodes at rudderlesstravel.com/podcast. You want to stay tuned because in the next episode, we're heading to Croatia to talk about a man that you may or may not know named Nikola Tesla. Yeah, you want to hear that. In the meantime, keep exploring and stay rudderless.